Oh shit, it's that time. Broad Ripple Fantasy Football League. Here's a video for all my newbies. Here's how you play, how you have fun. Let's get into it. What is fantasy football? You may be asking. Nerd shit. In reality, fantasy football, pretty straightforward. You draft a team of real NFL players, setting a lineup every week. Then you watch as they run, pass, catch, do football stuff, and that's all worth fantasy points. Every week you are matched up against someone else in the league, so maybe you're brainwashing this video and you're playing against John, and whichever lineup has the most fantasy points at the end of the week, they win. Then the following week, we do it all over again. The final few weeks of the NFL regular season are the fantasy playoffs, which work just like in the NFL. If you win, you advance in the playoffs. If you lose, you're out, and whoever's left standing wins a case of beer. That's it. Easy. So how do your players score points? Like, how does this whole scoring thing work? So your players score points by doing things in a game, such as gaining yards, scoring touchdowns. If you start a wide receiver in your lineup and they get 100 yards and a touchdown, you will get 16 points, as each yard counts as 0.1 points and each touchdown counts as 6 points. And don't worry, you don't have to remember any of the math. You don't have to remember how any of the scoring works. The app just keeps track of everything. You just look at it and it'll tell you how well your team did. The only thing you need to do is set your lineup. So how do you play? So you draft players who you think will score touchdowns and get yards. Draft defenses who you think will prevent the opposing team from scoring touchdowns. Draft a kicker who you think will make field goals, and then start those players in your lineup. Here's an example of a lineup. In this league, you'll start one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, one defense, one kicker, and there's a flex. What is a flex, you're asking? The flex is a player that you can choose to start from either the running back, wide receiver, or tight end position. Just pick the best player at one of those three positions to put in there, whoever's projected most points. Your bench players won't get you any points, but they're still your players. So they're players who might be injured but are good, or on a bye, or aren't projected very many points, but maybe you want to start them next week. As you can see in the columns, you got opponent, status, and project, PROJ. The projection, you just pretty much always want to start whatever player is projected the most points, unless you know something that says otherwise. But I mean, you pretty much just want to follow the projections. The draft. We're drafting Wednesday, September 4th at 8 p.m. You will need to have your phone or computer ready and have about 1 hour free to draft. We'll meet up for the draft, but if you can't make it, then you can just draft on your phone away from us. That's cool. When you draft, you'll see several players ranked for you already. The rank is called ADP, or average draft position. This is basically what the market thinks. This is what the consensus rank of the players are, and how well the average person thinks that they will do. If you know very little about fantasy football or football in general, I recommend you just pick one of the highest ranked players available when it's your turn to draft. I mean, you can take whoever you want, obviously. So, don't always just take the highest ranked player, but you probably shouldn't pick a player ranked 30th if you're drafting at the 10th position. That's not very smart. If you are a beginner, I don't recommend drafting a player 20 spots higher than they are ranked on ESPN. So if the player's ranked 70th and you're picking it at pick 20, don't take him yet. Like, he'll probably still be available later. Here's what the draft kind of looks like. You see the rankings there. Hopefully 8, 9, 10, 11, Justin Jefferson's ranked 8th, Jonathan Taylor's ranked 9th, so on and so forth. If you're picking at the 7, take a player ranked between 8 and 16, really. Waiver wire. This is the most confusing part about fantasy football, and since it's fantasy football, it really isn't that hard to understand. The waiver wire is just all the players that no league member has on their team. If everyone on your team is bad or injured, go add a player from the waiver wire and draft a player you don't like. It's pretty simple. You just go to free agents. There's the available players. Grab one. Improve your team. Good etiquette and setting your lineup. So before each Sunday, check your lineup and look at the projected number next to each player. If that player is projected 0 points, don't start them. If that player has IR next to their name, don't start them. that player has an O next to their name, don't start them. Put someone else in instead. It is annoying to other league members when you consistently start injured players or players who are projected to score 0 points. Key word here is consistently. Most people will occasionally forget to change their lineup before a game, especially if the player is a game time scratch. But if a player is listed as injured all week and you start him, that can be lame. Especially if you started him last week, he was injured, you scored 0 points, and then you don't take him out of your lineup the next week. Just make it a habit to check your lineup on Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. Swap out the injured player. There you go. Not very hard. So you're worried. Oh my God, my team sucks. I mean, probably not. It's only week 3. Players get injured, bounce back. You'll have some unlucky weeks, but you'll also have some lucky weeks. So, it's week 12, and you've only won 2 games. Yeah, that's impressively bad. Final thoughts. Set your lineup, draft relatively conservatively, look for players on the waiver wire, and pray. If you don't start an injured player or a player who's projected 0 points and you don't go completely off the rails during the draft, then you'll win at least a handful of games. Hell, you could easily win it all. So, it's kind of like March Madness. It's kind of lucky. Just random stuff happens in sports. You just draft the right player. You start them, you're going to win some games. So, thank you so much. Super excited for the season.